welcome back to this episode of Rich Lessons. I'm excited to have someone, as I call him, the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Calvin Mackie. He is an award winning inventor, author, mechanical engineer, and entrepreneur who founded STEM NOLA, a groundbreaking nonprofit focused on expanding STEM access in underserved communities. Through hands-on programming and grassroots community engagement, Dr. Mackie has empowered thousands of youth with tools and confidence to explore science, technology, engineering, and math. His work is nationally recognized for closing opportunity gaps and building a strong future through innovation. And most recently, and we got to get into it, STEM Global Action, which takes it, I'm sure, on a global scale, which is very fitting of Dr. Calvin Mackie. Welcome to Rich Lessons.
Hey, thank you. Thank you all for having me.
So I remember when you were first getting STEM NOLA off the ground. Take me back to then and bring me forward to now.
First and foremost, thank you all for having me, and thank you all for the great work that you're doing and the platform that you're giving people like me to tell our stories. It's very important. But I remember that fateful day when I met you, and I had this idea about creating this nonprofit. I had no idea how to even put a nonprofit together, how to fill out the paperwork, but I just knew I had this idea that I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was to go into communities and engage kids where they are. A lot of times people talk about schools, they talk about education. As always, the parents and the kids have to come somewhere. We were like, why can't we meet the parents and the kids where they live, work, and play and provide them with a value proposition in their community?
Absolutely. Now, this idea of STEM Global Action, how does that tie in? How does that extend the impact of STEM NOLA? Tell me a little bit about that.
You know, STEM NOLA is an organization we founded 13 years ago to expose and inspire and engage communities in hands-on STEM. My son, when he was in the third grade, he came home and said, "Dad, I don't like science anymore." I said, "Boy, you're crazy. It's in your DNA." You know, when your mama was playing that crazy classical music to her stomach, I was whispering Newton's laws to her belly. So it's in your DNA. He said, "No, Daddy, the teacher just talked to the board. And I like to do stuff with my hands." I said, "Son, we have to change that." So we went in the garage and I started ordering all of these STEM kits, and we started doing all these hands-on activities. Before you know it, my other son came in the garage, the kid next door came in the garage. And over time, we saw these kids changed, how their confidence changed, how they just started showing up, how their word use changed. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And me and my wife, Tracy, realized then that we had something not only for our own kids, but for other people. And since founding STEM NOLA in 2013, we've engaged over 200,000 young people in 47 states and 5 countries. And it was the COVID pivot, right? We started this in our garage, then we brought it to the community in New Orleans, and people around the world started calling, going, "I want that for my kid." And you know, and there's a saying that say, "Go where you celebrate it, not where you tolerate it." So if a mother called me and a father called me and said, "I want that for my kid," I almost feel compelled to respond. So that's how we grew from just being here in New Orleans to actually shipping kits now across the country, across the world.
Absolutely. And you have, to your point, you started local, state, and federal. Do different groups or different communities receive it differently, or do you see like the same desire, the same need from community to community?
You know, we are STEM NOLA, and we're in the process now of scaling our model to other cities. And it's funny, every year, I used to be a professor at Tulane for 12 years. So now Tulane Business School come to me every year and they give me a group of MBA students and they say, "Can we study you for like a semester and give you a report?" And they give me the same report every year about how I'm supposed to do this. One thing we realized early on is that community is community. And the last thing a mother or father want to know is that another kid is getting something that their kid isn't. So we took that into account. So Baton Rouge doesn't want NOLA, they want STEM Baton Rouge. Gulfport, Mississippi doesn't want STEM NOLA, they want STEM Gulfport. So we built a model where communities can own their solution and we build them up and help. And one thing I realized is that every community got the same problems. They think they got different problems, but it's just a different problem masked in a different way. And people say, "Well, how are you going to come into my community and do this? You don't know my community." I say, "Well, Beyonce don't know your community and she sells tickets here. Jay-Z don't know your community. Lil Wayne, Taylor Swift don't know your community." But they've figured out a way to come in and speak to you in such a way to show you the value proposition of what they have to offer you, and you respond to it. And at its essence, at its core, that's our belief, and that's the way we go into communities.
Absolutely.
What you say, like as far as going into the different communities, and I get it. They want their city at the end of it. Would you say getting people to understand or adapting to those cities would be your biggest challenge, or would you say something else is a challenge as far as like scaling the nonprofit?
You know, scaling this nonprofit, people think the biggest challenge is going to different cities. Because if I go to a city and begin to talk to politicians or even academicians, they're going to tell me why this won't work in their city. So I don't talk to them. Because we drop in cities and do this. Because I understand the value proposition of what we have to offer, but more importantly, I understand the thirst, the desires, and the needs of every parent. So when we drop in and do this, we just did this in Queens, New York. 400 parents and volunteers showed up in the Queensboro City Hall in the Queens. We just did this at the Michelle and Barack Obama Recreational Complex in LA. UCLA said, how can you get 1,000 people to show up on the corner of King and Obama? If we're on the corner of King and Obama, you know where we at.
Exactly.
We're in the hood, right?
Yeah.
And we had people at 7:30 a.m. lined up for a STEM event, for a 9 a.m. STEM event. We just did this in Yankee Stadium in the Bronx for District 9. So we just did this in Atlanta, and over 2,000 people showed up on Georgia Tech campus, mostly black and brown. And Georgia Tech damn near got mad at me because they didn't know that many people was gonna come. Definitely not that many black and brown people, you know. And they're like, how are you doing this? Because we have a value proposition for communities. We drop in, we use the communication strategies that we've developed to speak to those communities, and the communities in turn respond. So the biggest challenge in scaling what we're doing right now is just resources. And when I say resources, not necessarily money. You give me access to corporations and get their volunteers in the community. You give me access to the colleges and I get those students in the community. If I get the college students and the corporate volunteers in the community in one place, it takes on a life of its own. 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Now, I may be showing my age, but anybody who grew up, we knew that McDonald's commercial. And what McDonald's taught us is that they had systems and processes in place such that nowhere you go around the world, your Big Mac is going to taste the same. So we're dropping in communities, giving them the same value that we're giving in New Orleans.
And so do you feel like one of the biggest challenges to scaling is needing those additional resources for the corporations, the universities to show up to the table? And what else does that look like scale for you?
So when I say the biggest challenge in scaling is resources, a lot of times I really don't want to say money because everybody assumes that's it. No more money, you can scale. And you know better than me.
Right. It's not
Just
about
because you
money.
get more money, that don't mean you can scale,
No.
right? The biggest challenge is going into a community, getting in front of the people that understand the value proposition. For example, I just met with the mayor of a major city the other day. I just met with the CEO of a company. And I tried to explain to them what we was doing, and they were like, that's nice, but we have that here. And then at the end of the day, I said, look, the model that we bring to your community, check your corporate social responsibility box, it checks your community engagement box, it checks your employee engagement box, your employee satisfaction box, it checks your public affairs box, your government affairs box, and it checks your long-term workforce development box. And if you want to go to heaven, it checks your right damn thing to do box too. So after that, they're going, oh, wait a minute. So now this is not about me begging them for money. This is about a value proposition. I'm helping you with your ROI. So when I sit down with the CEO of a company, this CEO of the public affairs and government affairs people say, if we do this, then that's more than like I walk into the mayor's office or the city council office and say, look what I'm doing in the community. So now they don't look like a pariah, right? They don't look like they're just extracting, but they're literally bringing value to the community such that if they invest in this, we invest in the community such that maybe 10, 20 years from now, those people will one day be running that company in the community. So it wins for everybody. So when I say the biggest challenge to scaling is getting in a room to have those type of conversations with the decision makers. And whenever we have those conversations, it is over because it's crystal clear for them.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I always talk to so many people who start nonprofits or who wants to start nonprofits. And I was like, you should look at it as a business because it truly is. And you just kind of laid it all out for you because people are looking for a return on investment.
ROI.
And they're looking for a business case of what this will mean to me.
This is when I get in trouble.
Please.
You know, and that was
please.
Savitra. She know I get in trouble.
We
There
like
have
a
been
little
cities
trouble.
I've been in, Sheena, and there's been cities I've been kicked out of. Now, you know, I'm good for getting kicked out of places.
It
But-
happens to the best of us, I guess.
So the bottom line is this, right? You know, I just spoke at Stanford Business School, and the class is Impact Leadership Business Models and Those Who Built Them. Now, you know, this is Stanford Business School, some of the best business minds supposedly in the world and things like that. And I started out saying, when I built my business model, as an engineer, people teach us the way to solve problems that first you define a problem. And then that problem statement can change. But then you write down the givens. What do you know to be true? And you write down the givens. But then you got to make some assumptions. And usually that's where everybody goes astray, right? And they make the wrong assumptions. Or they're just some hard assumptions that need to be made that people just can't accept. And the best assumption I ever made when building my model was that nobody give a damn about our children. And I ain't been wrong that much.
We say they don't care about who's they. Who's
They, whoever I'm talking to. I mean, people care about their child.
But they don't care about the children.
You know, but it's very seldom do I find people that give a damn about the children. Now, if we accept that, right? And that's a hard thing. That's hard. If we accept that, that put me in a position and it forces me to think about what they do give a damn about. Because if I assume they don't give a damn about the children, and what if I assume they do give a damn about children? I go and have a conversation about the children and I walk away. Now, I wasted an hour. They don't care about the children. So what we talked about. But if I sit down and really think about what they care about, their ROI, or whether or not this proposal gonna get to the mayor, or whether or not this committee at Sewage and Water Board or the water place gonna check them off, now we having a real conversation. And that it has never failed me. Now, if they do give a damn about the children, and I go in there and then bring a value proposition on top of that, we cooking with grease. They're like, oh man, I can impact the community and get this ROI for my company. But if they don't care about impacting the community and get an ROI for their company, who win? I win. And that's how we've done over 30 to 40 million in the last 12 years. That's how we have sustained this. This is how we got 40 full-time employees. This summer we had 95 college interns and 50 9th through 12th graders working for us. That's how this summer we had these 9th through 12th graders bill over $1 million in inventory kits for us because we look at this as value proposition and return on investment. But it started with the hard right assumption. If I'd have made the assumption that everybody give a damn about these children, I am convinced many, I wouldn't even have a lot of meetings. People want to meet with me now because they're going, I saw what you did for that company. Can you do that for us? Very seldom is the conversation about what the children receive.
I you know what? I can't even argue that. And I'm gonna tell you why. I did some consulting work with a ed tech company.
Yep.
And a lot of the things that I thought or I assumed when I got deep into that company, I look at completely different now. So I'll give you an example. I always think like, oh, you know, public education, they want, it's free, but come, they want to teach you as much as you can. It's a system, but still, come as much as you can. And then I got into like the actual business of school, public school. And I realized like, I only think the superintendents care about two things. What's going to be on their standardized test. And if you're going to be in that, your butt going to be in that seat at least 75% of the day so I can get the money that I need from the state to run this. But as far as saying like the kids' education comes first, I'm not saying that's true for every principal, by the way. But when it comes to the business of running a school, particularly a public school, I had an eye-opening experience in working for that
That's
company.
more important. No, that's public. It's way more important than private because every kid definitely comes with a check attached. So, when people really want to have these conversations, the reason why a lot of legislators they want to give public money to private schools, but they won't hold the private schools to the same accountability test as the public schools because they know what's going to happen. I mean, people who send their kids to private school a lot of time paying for an audience, paying for, neighbors and things. They're not really paying for an education. They know their kid going to get it anyway. So, look, just to give people my background, right? I grew up in the city of New Orleans, grew up in a house with no books. Went to Morehouse College in Atlanta. I started Morehouse in remedial reading and developmental math. They said I was reading on the 8th grade level. And 3.5 years later, I finished Morehouse Phi Beta Kappa, number 5 in the largest class Morehouse ever graduated, number 1 in math, and went over to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech wouldn't even give me an application coming to high school. And 11 years later, I had a BS, MS, and PhD in mechanical engineering. Sheena, my people is from West Feliciana Parish. My dad dropped out of school to pick cotton. So when you tell me you're from Mississippi, I'm talking about our people. But when I think about my background, when I walk into communities, I see Kelvin. I ain't got the privilege to pick over who can be great and who can't be great because that was me. So when I look at education now, I got to make this accessible to everybody.
Yep.
And one of my biggest challenges is dealing with middle class people. The middle class people think they know, and their kids getting left real behind, right? And well, my kid go to this school and there's a makerspace. Ask your kid how many times they've been in a makerspace. Or my kid go to this school and guess what? They have a robotics team. Is your kid on a robotics team? You see, so a lot of times my friends, they don't be inviting me to the parties. They'd be like, oh, Mackie, this is a Jack and Jill thing today. But the bottom line, and I'm in Jack and Jill, so don't get mad at me. But the bottom line is we got to have these real conversations about the real value propositions. And you brought up the ed tech. A lot of ed tech companies are coming to me now because their whole goal is the attention economy. How do I attract eyes? And somehow that fool over there realized how to attract eyes. So how do we work together such that I can get my eyes on your team? And that is STEM in action. Right there, thunder.
Literally. It's storming here where we're taping, everyone. If you can't hear it, that's because our...
It's only going to be storming for 5 minutes. You
right,
know how it goes.
Exactly. If you can't hear it, that's because our production team just got rid of the sound. So we talked about resources, and even before I go to this, it's so... What you said just has like stayed with me, the idea of people don't really care about children because if they did, the whole world would be different if people really cared about children like they claim they do.
May I add?
Yes.
Another essence of our model, we say that we are child-centered, adult-governed, elder rule. If you go to any high-functioning community, look at the Jewish community, for example, child-centered, adult-governed, elder rule. If you go to Ghana and look at the Akana, the Ashanti people, when you look at the structure, it's child-centered, adult-governed, elder, meaning that everything that we do is through the lens of what's in the best interest of the children. You surround the children with adults, and adults understand that their goal, their role every day is to get up and work 40, 80 hours and create wealth, for the future of their children, such that while the adults working 40 to 80 hours, they free up the elder so the elder can have time to invest the wisdom in the kids before they transition to their next life. If we cared about children, every decision that we make in this city, in this state, in this country would be through the lens of what's in the best interest of our children. You don't see too many people doing that, whether it's on a local level, whether it's on a state level, or whether it's on a federal level. A lot of my buddies, I said, man, what happened? They said, what? I said, man, I thought we was going to change the world, man. We used to be playing dominoes and sipping, and what happened? And one of my buddies said, man, I got a mortgage. I got married, man. I had kids. Yeah. I like Martha Vineyard, man. I like that corporate code. So everybody ain't built for the same thing. And people begin to become self-perpetuating, right? How do I do this to self-perpetuate this what I want rather than looking at the broader world and the broader community? Now, with that said, I believe us and people like us got to move away from, many of us grew up in the backgrounds we grew up in. I understand that. We worked hard, we did what we had to do to one day to view ourselves and be viewed as successful. That is beautiful. But at some point, we got to go from successful to significant. And that's the difference from going from being an adult to being an elder. We always talk about mentoring boys and girls to men and women. But Savitri, Sheena, we never have these conversations about how do we mentor men and women into elders. That's why nobody can tell me nothing bad about LeBron. I mean, I was raised to say, hey, first thing is personal. You got to get to a point where you got to be able to take care of yourself. Thank you, Daddy. I did that. Then my daddy said, look, then you got to get to a point where you got to be able to take care of yourself and those you're responsible for. But there's another level after that an old man taught me. It's called chiefhood. I said, what's chiefhood? He said, getting to a level in your life where you could take care of not only you, not only those that you're responsible for, but you begin to take care of the entire community, people that you don't even know. And you look at what LeBron is doing, he's taking care of kids and things he don't even know. And for a lot of us that are successful, we got to get to being significant, whether it's in our own communities across the country. And it's not turkey giveaways and book bag giveaways. I want to go through my community and see people's names on buildings such that when they die, those little kids will know. I don't know who that is, but she cared about me.
Now, speaking of resources, how do you fund? I mean, I'm going to call it a revolution because perhaps caring for children in this way is revolutionary and it shouldn't be, but maybe it is. But how do you fund this big mission? And that could be like currently and then future tense, right? Like how we will, how we are.
Look, when I met Savitri, I came in the office, I met her, I was talking to her, I didn't even know who she was. So I started telling another guy, man, look, somebody want to give me money and I don't even have a nonprofit. You got it? So she said, I'll do it for you. And I'm like, yeah, all right. I said, look, man, these people want to give me money. So she, everything. I mean, I still got paperwork going to her old address because she did the paperwork, got us the nonprofit. And ever since then, you have, and I'm very grateful and thankful for God I met you that day, have been a resource to let me know how to continue going forward. But my wife and I took $100,000 of our own dollars and started this. And I should say, I took $100,000 and she like, are you out your mind? But now we took $100,000 and she all in because we couldn't convince people of the value proposition that we were going to bring. So the way we fund this now is, that's why when we start talking about the value proposition and the ROI, is that during Hurricane Katrina, I was on the Louisiana Recovery Authority. And that was the 33-member board that the governor appointed to help rebuild the state in the aftermath of the greatest engineering catastrophe in the history of this country. And all this federal money started coming to town, and I started seeing how public affairs people worked, how government affairs people work. I started seeing the pressure points of politicians. And you had people coming down from tech companies, and it was building houses with Habitat for Humanity. I'm going, that's crazy, right? If Microsoft coming to town, Microsoft should be doing Microsoft stuff with our children. Now, Home Depot can build a house with Habitat, but I need Microsoft people teaching our kids networking and stuff like that. And it clicked to me, right? I said, what if I could create activations around the value proposition of these companies such that when they come to town, or if they're in my town, it'll make sense for them to fund. And as I did more studying, and I studied more and more, and hanging around all these politicians, because the reason why I hang around so many politicians, I moved to New Orleans, and I was the first and only African-American professor in the College of Engineering, first and only African-American ever tenured in the history of College of Engineering at Tulane. I didn't have any colleagues. So I had to hang out with all these lawyers and politicians just to have community. But I would ride with them on their campaigns just to get free food and drinks at night, just to have friends. And I learned so much. So we run STEM NOLA like a political campaign. You've seen it. We have signs along the street when people show up. We do robocalls. But more importantly, we make placards for the companies. We leverage the companies' logos. And it's all about all of us coming together in collective impact to impact these children and families. So it's a win for everybody. So for companies, that's a big win for them when they can be looked upon with great eyes to the community. For example, ratepayers, right? So if your local utility company, everybody pay them. It's very important to local utility companies that people see them as good citizens.
Right. That's true. Now, I know corporations obviously can give, cities obviously can write you contracts, but do individuals give to STEM NOLA and the work of Dr. Mackie?
The answer is absolutely yes. And thank you for bringing that up. When you ask how we fund this, we have people say a 3-legged stool. We got a 5-legged stool. I tell people we write grants. We have and again, being a former engineering professor and who had to write National Science Foundation grants, I was able to get this off the ground because I was able to write my own grants, right? We have government, appropriations. We have philanthropic money. And then we have sponsorships. And then we have the individual donor. The individual donor was the last people we went after because the lift was going to be too heavy for me to have individuals fund this.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if you go to www.stemnola.com or www.stemglobalaction.com, you see a big red donation button. And like I tell people, especially in New Orleans, we engaged 31,000 kids across the state of Louisiana last year, 16,000 in the city of New Orleans. If every one of those families gave me $10 a month, we wouldn't have to ask anybody for anything. Collectively, if we work together collectively, right? And that's what I'm talking about, people caring for their children. We're bringing $100 to $200 a child value to everything that we do. We have these big events, and for example, if it's car day, kids do activities around force in motion, but then every kid get with college students and professionals and build a car and race the car, and they leave with the car. So every event we have, $20 to $30 goes straight out the door with the kid. And not that the kids get in a group and build a car and say, look what we did. Each kid leaves with their car. Because I want that kid to go home and say, Mama, Daddy, Grandma, Grandpa, look what I did. That builds their confidence, right? So I'm just trying to get individuals, let's do this together. If everybody gave $10, and I get this model from Obama. Remember Obama said, give me $1. If everybody give $1, we can change it. Change is on its way. So we go into communities and we want the least of these, the people with the least to know that they can contribute to their communities. And you won't believe I have, people walk up to me and press $10 in my hand, and say, just keep doing what you're doing. And I thank God that I'm giving them a pathway to know, one, giving them trust that they can believe in me, that $10 is going to go to what we're doing, but giving them a pathway such that they can go home and go to bed knowing that I contributed to something in my community.
So if you listen to this, go to stemnola.com and make your $10 or more contribution today.
Now, give what you can give now. I'm talking about
right, that's why I said $10 or more. You can put that $10 recurring monthly if you need to.
Like, but say, man, I give you $10 a month. I say, but you buy me a $15 drink every month. Give me the $15.
Right, save the drink. Give me the $15.
So if money is always great to have. Other resources are even better though. How would you say for you measure success beyond just the numbers?
Woo. And I say, woo, because I had a big conversation about this morning, right? Because all these people want to come in and want to evaluate, And I say everything that counts doesn't matter, and everything that matters doesn't necessarily can be counted. But every time I pass McDonald's, they have a sign that say 2 billion served. So obviously, if 2 billion people showing up where you are, then you're doing something right. I measure success by every day, every event, we have like a 5 to 6 question survey where we ask parents, what do you think? I don't want nobody to talk to my middle school kid about no career. A middle school kid shouldn't be talking about no job. They do that to poor people. A middle school kid want to have fun. So that's why we have, robotics day and boat day and all of that. And we ain't asking them like you could be a riverboat pilot. We don't have that conversation. But we ask parents, do you think this is going to help you better advise your kid? Do you think this is giving your kid a better way of looking at the world? And the most important success that we have, and now since we've been doing this 12 years, almost once a month now, I publish a story of a kid who started with us and now working for Chevron. Like the other day, just took a job at Boeing. Yesterday was the first day of med school, and I counted at least 7 kids. This is my first day of med school. Monday, a little kid named Jameer. I'll never forget Jameer because Jameer went to St. Aug. And Jameer came to me as a 10th grader, and he said, will you mentor me? I said, do you want me to be your mentor or your friend? He said, what's the difference? I said, a friend going to leave you as yours, but a mentor going to kick you behind. And Jameer said, mentor me. That first summer, I paid Jameer all summer to learn robotics. That's your job. Show up every day and learn robotics. And every Friday, you're going to do a demonstration for me. Monday, Jameer texted me, said, Doc, I want you to know I graduated in December from Southern, and I've just accepted a full-time position at Dow. And he gave me his salary. And I knew then this has changed the whole trajectory of his life and families. The two young ladies who say, you my daddy. Two young ladies who started with us when they was 8 years old. 3 years ago, Texas A&M came and gave these twin girls full tuition scholarships. $320,000 delivered to one family. And we realized, and we've changed the trajectory of their family. So for us, that's the ultimate measurement of success. More importantly, now I know I'm taking along with this one, when a mother or father come up to us and say thank you, it don't get no greater than that. Because we know then that we've done something that their mother and father value and want for their kids.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You can't take away from. It's a value piece that when you realize the work that you've done has impacted well beyond just something money can't buy.
There you go.
Like you've changed someone, say like I can believe in myself, or you giving me something, an opportunity that I didn't have before. To me, by far, money could never. That's priceless.
Absolutely.
It's priceless.
And particularly in education, because people remember forever. Like when you're young, like you remember people who impacted you the most to get you to that next level.
Yeah.
And
You're like the teacher that you be like, I remember Miss such and such and such.
oh yeah,
like,
I remember all my professors, all my teachers who had a significant impact on my life, and I always talk about them in that way to this day. And the fact that you said the young ladies were like, "Oh, you like our daddy," and so I got like the Bill Gates scholarship. And so we used to call him Daddy Gates.
There you
So
go.
you had, I'm sure he does not know that there are grown people out here still calling him Daddy Gates.
Daddy Gates. There's no doubt about it.
But he paved the way, so very significant. Now, you have also been super influential in your brother's life, known to the world as Captain America. Anthony Mackie, who's probably going to become one of the greatest actors, not just Black actors, but actors in history. Now, you may not remember this, but we were on the Bayou Classic panel years ago with like Lance Gross and Jackie Long.
That was the first time I met you.
Yes. And you were basically telling the story about how the reason why you push education and you push people into different spaces to meet different people, and how even doing that has changed the trajectory of people's life. So would love to know some of the things that you probably told Anthony Mackie and others that impacted them long term.
The funny part, I'm one of six. It's six of us, 3 boys, 3 girls. And both of our parents are deceased. And my brother recently, with the Captain America thing, he had to do the whole press junket. And I'm sitting at the TV and I'm crying. I mean, I'm hearing things and tears rolling down my eyes. And one of my former PR people called me recently and said, man, every time I hear your brother, I hear you. I hear the things you telling these other people. And I'm crying because 20 years later, I realized this fool been listening to me. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it shows up differently, right?
You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
yeah, he been listening to me, right? But I'll never forget in May 31st, 1994, he was in middle school and our mother passed away. I tell people we fought like cats and dogs till my knuckles was bloody till his lips were swollen. When my mom died in bed, I promised her that her last one, her baby, was gonna have every opportunity the other 5 did. Well, the last 2, my little sister and them, because they're a year apart. And that was my promise to my mom. But from that point on, at the time I was a graduate student at Georgia Tech, trying to figure out life for myself. And I had to start flying back and forth to New Orleans almost every other weekend, just trying to make sure that they were gonna be okay, right? Put my eyes on them. And so many nuggets that I was dropping on him and them, it comes back. But the thing I told him was that he had to be an engineer. I said, look, man, the money in engineering, I put him in like this mobile explorer camp. And I went over to the school one time and he was causing havoc at the school. And they put him in an acting class. And when they talked to the acting teacher, she said, he's fine in here. She said, we think, he needs to really spend more time here. I said, no, he's been doing more math. And he came and said, I think I might want to act. And I'm like, yeah, you act a fool every day. That's the problem, right? And I tell that story because me, the motivator, Dr. Calvin Mackie, telling people to live their dreams, almost killed my own brother's dream because I wouldn't listen to him. And he told me, I think I want to do this. And thinking about what I promised my mom, I said, look, if you're going to do this, you're not going to be discovered on the street corner. You got to master your craft. You got to go to, my whole point to him, you got to go damn school. I don't care what you do, you're going to go to school. And he went to school. And I said, as long as you go to school for this, I support you. And he went to school, and then after his junior year in school, they would talk about he need to go to North Carolina School of the Arts. I'm like, man, I ain't paying for you to go to no damn high school. And he went to North Carolina School of the Arts, and the rest is history. He went to Juilliard. My first movie was 8 Mile, with Papa Doc, and now he's Captain America. But the education thing I kept hammering was, I'll never forget, he was at Juilliard, and they had people came to him and they wanted him to drop out. I don't know if you all remember the movie Finding Forrester, and the guy was a basketball player. My brother used to lament about the fact that all these rappers was getting these movies and he wasn't. I said, look, man, are you after a movie or are you after a career? Now, if you after some movies, drop out of Juilliard. But if you after a career, master your craft. Are you trying to be an entertainer or you trying to be an artist? Because entertainer get a movie, get a sitcom, but an artist gonna be here forever. And that's the same message we're giving these kids right now. I was on the phone the other day with the NBA Foundation. They said, well, da-da-da-da. I said, how long does it take to make a basketball player? They said, what you mean? I said, how long does it take for somebody to get to the NBA? They said minimum 18 years, but 18, 19, 20 years. I said, you know how long it take to make an engineer? You know how long it take to make a doctor? The same amount of time. So we got to have this same push around education for our kids and let them know that whatever it is you want to do, you can do, but you got to master it. You got to master your craft. And you know that 10,000 hours, you got to master your craft. So I push education. I push education on everybody. In my book, A View from the Roof, chapter 1, it's called Mastering Your Craft. And there's a story about Mr. Trade and Mr. Degree. And at the end of the chapter, Mr. Degree works for Mr. Trade. So I'm not even about go to school and get all these college degrees. Like I got 4 of them. The goal is you got to master something. So, and that came from my mom and dad. They pushed that on the 6 of us. And that's the model that my brother hopefully giving to the world and that I want to give to the world.
Absolutely. This kind of makes me think about, well, first of all, I thought about jack of all trades, but a master of none. Mm-hmm. And people always say, it's good to have one thing that people know you for and they could call you for.
That's right.
And you will always, stay paid and stay in business.
I tell a story about the lady I don't know if it still exists, but I used to tell a story about this lady when websites first came out. I found this website. This lady had a website called cleanchitlins.com. Clean Chitlins. And she was doing over $1 million a year.
Oh my gosh.
That's what she did. Do your thing and people will find it. At least you'll find your tribe and the people that want it.
Yeah, we had an episode with Doug Chase, and he basically said that probably started with his generation, and now he's pushing obviously for the next generation, is that yes, while we're running the business, you go off and get your degrees, you go off and learn from the best, and then we need for you to come on back and take the family business to the next level with everything that you learned.
And that's I hate to say that's a big mistake I made. My dad, like I said earlier, dropped out of school in the 8th grade to pick cotton, but in the aftermath of Hurricane Betsy, he put a ladder on a car and started a roofing company. And for 40 years, Mackie Roofing was one of the largest black roofing companies in the state, if not one of the largest roofing companies. I remember going to my daddy's warehouse and during Christmas and all of the roofers, he'd make me go to the bank. I was like 12 years old. He said, go get me like 20,000 and hundreds. And I'm like, what? I'm 12 years old, right? Bank of New Orleans, I still remember. And all the men would come in and he'd give the men their bonus. He'd give them an envelope with some money in it and the fifth of whatever liquor they like. And he always say, son, we feeding families. Son, we feeding families, right? And I just always wanted to be in a position to say we feeding families. And if more of us would do that, that's why I'm so big on entrepreneurship. So I'm so big on people living their dream and finding what they want to do and getting it done. Because as we grow, we can help other people grow.
Now, we talk about the AI boom, et cetera. How do you see or feel that will impact AI? And how do you stay ahead of the curve?
Woo, woo. I've been having a lot of these conversations. I have two sons. My oldest son just graduated from Howard, top of his engineering class. He's interning at Aerospace Corporation in LA right now, but he's going to Michigan in the fall and start his PhD program in robotics and AI. Now he went to Howard, so I don't talk to him, right? I went to Morehouse. I'm like, how disrespectful can a son be? Then he chose Michigan over Georgia Tech, so we really don't talk now. But my youngest son is a rising junior at Yale in economics and data science.
Yes, I
right?
met him. Such a smart kid.
And so we have these conversations, and he and I had this conversation this morning. And I forgot to tell him, I said, man, you should come to this podcast. Because I sent him some stuff last night. I said, look, we really need to get you up on this AI. If you're going to be an economist or you're in data science is important, but this AI, bro, you got to be on it. He said, well, Dad, I'm looking at how to build agents now and this and that. But me and him had a conversation about the way that we win in the age of AI is not by being more technical, it's about being more human. I wrote an article years ago for Forbes called We Are Human Beings Before We Are Human Doers. And he and I had this conversation about how, isn't it funny? And I told him, I said, man, I'm about to meet these two young ladies on this podcast. Both of them are non-technical founders. He said, Dad, I've been reading about that, right? Like Peter Thiel and all these people, they're philosophers and this and that. And both of us agreed that the way we win in the age of AI is that we have to tap into what make us human and be more of that and use that with the tools. And then we start talking about, isn't it funny where all these people now that are building AI and building a new technology, trying to get rid of education in the humanities, because maybe they just want people to have less humanity so they can be more controlled by the technology that they're creating. That's my fear.
Yeah.
That's my fear. All right? Technology used to be a tool. Now technology is the means to the end. So are we just going to have people using tools with no humanity? Or do we need people with humanity and empathy using the tools to create a better world? Because when you are less human and you have no empathy, then you'll cut off aid to 1 billion people across the world and let them starve and throw food away in America that we're not even using. If a technologist and you work billions and you have no empathy and no humanity, then you'll just go in and slice 20% of the workforce just because, without any thought of how this is going to impact the community they live in, their children, their family. So humans don't mean nothing. So at the end of the day, the way we win is that we got to teach our kids these tools because they ain't going away. But at the same time, we got to teach our kids in our communities how to be more empathetic and how to be more human because we're human beings before we're human doers.
Thanks. Yes, I said we were having this conversation with Chris Ross, who's in real estate, and he says, I don't think AI is going to replace people like him because of relationships. And I said that the highest commodity in the future of superintelligence is going to be emotional intelligence.
EQ, that's right. How do you relate to people? And when I really think about STEM NOLA, and when I really do think about how we've achieved what we've achieved, I argue with a lot of my friends. My friends like, man, I got a PhD like you. I'm a doctor like you. And I said, I can give you the playbook. I can give you the SOP. I can spot you the S, the T, the E, and the damn M, and you cannot do it with what I've done. Because they don't realize it's not the STEM and the PhD that have allowed me to be successful. It's my EQ and my relationship to these people that we're dealing with. And I just want to give you one example. We had a big rocket day. We probably have like the largest rocket day in urban America, funded by either the Department of Defense or the Boeing Corporation. But the Department of Defense and Boeing was sponsoring this rocket day. We had 1,000 people at University of New Orleans. And the evaluator came down. The evaluator brought her son and brought her mother-in-law. And rocket day is in the middle of July, it's 99 degrees, 200% humidity, people sweating. I got misters. This day costs $50,000 right off the bat because I got to get Gatorade, misters, air-conditioned toilet. I mean, it works, right? So at the end of the event, the evaluator was like, this is amazing. The video you did is amazing. She said, but to stand in this and see these people engrossed is unbelievable. And her mama said, this is amazing. Her mother-in-law said, this is amazing. And she said, and thank you. You gave us good toilets. They usually give us portalays. You gave us good toilets. Sheena turned and walked away with tears coming down my chin. Because you know what that said to me, but what it said to her when she came there and saw an executive toilet for her, this is somebody who cares about me. This is about human dignity. When we go into these communities, I fight because I'm partnering with Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech want to have the STEM events on campus. I'm like, get out of your way. The problem with higher ed right now, one of the reasons that higher ed is under attack, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons is that they've abdicated their social compact with community. Nobody in the community know what they do. They can live next door. And yeah, they're making entrepreneurs and they're generating economic development and creating new technology. But that mother saying, what are you doing for me? And I need Georgia Tech to work with me. I need LSU to work with me. I need University of Illinois to work with me to get the human capital and the technical capital into the communities, to give STEM to these kids in the community where they live, so that when they show up, know what they're going to say? Georgia Tech thought about me. Georgia Tech care about me. When you beg me and get me on your campus, that don't mean you care about me. That just means I'm doing something on your campus. But when you come to my hood and you bring that $100,000 robot in my hood, that means you came here for me. And that's the humanity. That's the EQ that we bring into our business model. And that's the biggest challenge I have with hiring people. People want to come in and they want to do what they do, but they don't want to bring their humanity with it. We lead with our humanity.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask this last question, then our final question. The last question is, what's the long-term vision? What do you see next for your work?
You know, we live in a nation that makes sure that every boy, especially black and brown, touches a football or basketball before the age of 4. No one questions that. Live in a nation that makes sure when them boys go to school, they make sure they got sports in those schools. They make sure when those boys and girls get out of school, they got sports in their neighborhood. And those boys and girls grow up hoping and dreaming and believing that one day they'll be one of 250 and get drafted and become millionaires. They grow up dreaming, believing that maybe one day they'll be one of 60 that get drafted to the NBA or the WNBA and become a millionaire. They grow up dreaming that one day maybe I'll be the next Serena Williams or Tiger Woods or Chris Everett and play golf or gymnastics and win a gold medal and be a millionaire. My dream, my vision now is to have 1 million kids doing STEM on Saturdays all across this country, hoping and dreaming and believing that one day, 18, 19 years later, there'll be one of the 14.4 millionaires in the world or one of the 3,250 billionaires in the world. And the thing about it is that out of those 3,250 billionaires in the world, not one of them ever played in the NFL. Only 1 or 2 have played in the NBA. Only 3 or 4 has ever been rappers. Only 5 or 6 has been entertainers. That leaves like 3,235 different positions for them to become millionaires, let alone millionaires. And the thing about it, I was a basketball player, played with Avery Johnson and different people like that growing up. And I used to dream about being on a hardwood at the basketball games. And now when I go to the games, I see her on the floor. But sometimes I get to put my feet on the floor. And you know what I say, Sheena? I made it to the NBA. And isn't it funny when those NBA teams and those NFL teams come for sale, 99.9% of the time now it's bought by somebody with a background in STEM. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So my big dream is to have 1 million kids doing STEM, creating the next multi-billion-dollar company in their community, transforming her community for her people.
I love it. So final question, we always ask this to every guest, and that is, what is one rich lesson you've learned in life or business? This could be something that cost you a lot to learn or it cost you nothing to learn, but you're happy you learned it.
You know, my dad had an 8th grade education. In my book that I wrote about my dad, A View from the Roof, A Lessons for Life and Business, he always say, boy, that's tuition, boy. Whenever I mess up, he said, that's tuition. That's tuition, boy. Whenever I mess up, that's tuition. That was a very expensive lesson there, boy. But one thing I learned, and I tell my sons and I tell kids, and this is what I had to learn. And it brings me back to the day when I met you. You cannot have a rich conversation with a poor-minded person. If you got big rich, brilliant ideas, you got to go find people with mindsets that match that can help you get there, that can speak hope, belief, and faith and direction into you. You know, it took me 12 years. We've been doing this 12 years, which is amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. But I realized I spent a whole lot of time talking to the wrong people. Now, I can't remember the investor, this VC I was talking to one day. And I was telling him, and he said, look, one thing I realized about you. He said, your idea is great. Your idea deserves to be funded. And you're talking to the wrong person. He said, I'm gonna help you find the right people. And I walked out of there mad at that man. And the more and more I walked away, the more and more respect I gained for that man. Because he told me the truth. Many times when we trying to start stuff, we go talk to anybody that'll listen, you know what I mean? They don't know what the hell we talking about, and they crush our dreams. Oh, you can't do that, Sheena. You can't start a tech business. So, what you talking about, right? We gotta find the right people to talk to. You cannot have a rich conversation with a poor-minded person.
No notes. And that's our episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you,
Thank
Dr. Mackie.
you.
No, thank you all. Thank you.
Beautiful.